Hello out there to you. In this problem, I've got a government that is imposing a price floor, and then they are guaranteeing to buy the excess surplus. So it's like a price assurance policy from the government. They're supporting the price by guaranteeing that they will purchase any excess units produced in the market. Okay, so first the question, we've got a demand function here and a supply function here. We do this mostly algebraically. But you could also just graph these two functions, and I'll kind of do that towards the end. When you do that, you don't want to use Q. Most graphing calculators want that to be the X value, and then you want that to be the Y value. So change the function to be X equals 210 minus 1.5 Y, and that'll give you your downward sloping demand curve, and then you can do the same thing over here. This becomes X. This becomes Y, same thing. See where they cross, that'll give you the free market equilibrium. Free market equilibrium means the government leaves it alone. So we're going to just solve for where quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. So just take both of your functions over there, set them equal to each other. So just take 210 minus 1.5 P. And then I'm going to switch these so I don't screw up forget to put the negative 140. So 2p minus 140. Okay. Now I'm just going to rearrange some stuff here. So I got 350 equals 3.5p. And then divide both sides by p. Sorry, divide both sides by 3.5, not p. And we get price is 100. So the equilibrium price in this market is 100. Plug that into either one of these, and you'll get the equilibrium quantity. I'm going to plug them into both, just so we can prove that to you. 1.5 and then times 100. Okay, so that becomes 150, and 150, or 210 minus 150 is 60. So the equilibrium quantity is 60, but then we'll do the same thing for quantity supplied. 2 times 100 minus 140, and in that case you get 60 also. So the quantity here is 60, and the price is 100. That's the free market equilibrium. Now the government comes in and sets a binding price floor. This is set above our equilibrium price, so that means binding, it's going to do something. And then the government is forced to buy the excess. So we need to figure out how much is the excess. So the way to do that is to plug in this new price, this 110, into both of those, and then it'll tell you how many the buyers want to buy and the sellers want to sell. So how many of the buyers want to buy at that higher price? So 210 minus 1.5, and then 110 there. Okay, and this answer here, because I did this earlier, that's 45. So just solve for that. That's the quantity demanded. And then the quantity supplied is 2 times 110. It's our new price, minus 140. And this one is 220 minus 140, so that's 80. So the buyers will buy 45, the sellers will want to sell 80. So the excess supply, or the excess quantity, is going to be, I could just call that surplus, I suppose. It's going to be 35 additional barrels of oil. Now the government guarantees that they're going to buy it at the price that they said. So the way to find the government spending is to take government spending, the quantity times, so we're going to take the number of units, which is 35, and we're going to multiply that by the price. So it's 3,000, I think it was 850. Let me make sure. Yeah, so 35 times 110, 3,850. Okay, so that's how much it's going to cost the government to do this. What is the new level of producer surplus? So this is the difference between the price, which is 110, and the really the marginal cost with the the supply curve essentially. So Microsoft, I don't know if this is new, it's new to me, but in the calculator, it's now got a graphing calculator, so cool. So the blue one, I drew or had it draw out this linear demand function here. And then the red one is the supply function. So the sellers are going to sell 45 units to the consumers. That's what you see here. But then they're going to sell those additional units to the government. So the sellers don't really care who buys it as long as somebody does. So they're going to sell a total of 80. Okay, so that's this point all the way out here. So if you were drawing a graph, you would sketch it out, right, starting right here. This is a quantity of 0, price of 70. So what that means is the price has to be 70 in order to produce anything for this producer. So it's a big triangle. So it's a different, starts out here. So from 0 to 110. Okay, and then it goes all the way over here. And unlike different sort of price control policy, when the government buys it, there's no, I mean, there's some government waste here, but there's not a deadweight loss, as we would say. Sometimes they call that government waste or government loss. But anyway, so the producer surplus is this entire triangle here, okay, because it's the area below that price of 110 and above the supply curve. So we're on 80 units, okay. So come back to the problem here. So it's the new level of producer surplus. So producer surplus is 1/2 the number of units, so we're going to sell 80 units, times the difference between where the supply curve starts, so that was 70, and the price, so is 110 minus 70. If you want to write that out, you could, but this would just be 40. Okay, so that's 3,200. Half of that is 1,600. That's the level of producer surplus. If the government withdraws the surplus purchase assurance, what is the producer surplus now? So this is a little bit harder. What we need to do is calculate a triangle, but then also a rectangle. Okay, so now what's going to happen is, let's see if I can grab this. So now the sellers are only going to sell this many units. And we know from earlier that that's 45. Okay, so now our producer surplus is this triangle plus this rectangle. So if I was sort of going to draw that, what I could do is do it like this. So I'm going to add both of those together. Okay, so because I'm looking at the graph, I can sort of look at this triangle. This is 70, and then I just need to know what that number is right there. And then this will be on 45 units. So it's 45. So the producer surplus, which is right, or part of it, is 1/2. And it's going to be 45 units times, what is that? So here's how we're going to find out what that is. We just need to put in price. We can put in, actually we can go X equals 45, and that hits it right there. So that would be, looks like 92.5. And so that's 92.5. So on our graph here, 92.5. Okay, so you can also find that by just plugging in the quantity 45. So if you put 45 there and then solve for P, you get 92.5. So 92.5, this is a 0. So now we've got everything we need to solve this. So that's 22.5 is the difference between here and here. So 22.5. So 45 times 22.5. And then another half of that. So it's 506 and a quarter. This is 506.25 plus, we didn't do this rectangle yet. So it's the difference between 110 and 92.5. So 17.5, so that's the top part of this on 45 units. It's not a triangle this time, so you don't have to do anything 1/2. So 787.5. So 787.5. That's the area of this big triangle here. Okay. And so we're going to add that to 506.25, and that's 1,293. 1,293.75. That's the producer surplus now. Let's look at the old producer surplus. The old producer surplus was 1,600. The question is, without government surplus purchase, or so yeah, without the government, surplus purchase assistance, should the price floor be implemented? I mean, it's kind of a political calculation, but really, from an economic efficiency standpoint, no. We have smaller producer surplus, smaller consumer surplus. Another thing you could do is figure out what's the total surplus without government interference, and it's going to be bigger because there's no deadweight loss there. So like if you were looking at the original free market situation, without this, you can figure out, okay, there's the consumer surplus, there's the producer surplus, no deadweight loss, that's a big number. If you're doing this government purchase thing, then the producer surplus is bigger, the consumer surplus is a little bit smaller, and then it's got this government spending. So you'd want to explain it like that. But that's how to think about a government insurance policy on a price floor and do some calculations with that.